The desert sprawled outward like an ocean of stone, the horizon trembling under the weight of heat. Dr. Marcus Valen crouched over the excavation pit, brushing away grains of ochre sand with a meticulous patience born of decades spent kneeling before the bones of ancient things. His shoulders were taut despite the arid wind tugging at his sun-bleached hat. Every small motion carried a restrained intensity, as though the earth might betray its secrets only if he proved worthy. Adrian Locke leaned on the rim of the pit, wiping sweat from his brow. He was younger by nearly 15 years, and though his skin had already browned from weeks under the relentless sun, his energy never waned. His voice, perpetually buoyant, bounced against the stone. "You've been staring at that ridge for 2 hours. Tell me you've found something more exciting than a sedimentary hiccup." Marcus didn't lift his eyes. His brush revealed the faint curve of a structure unlike the vertebrae they had catalogued earlier. The ridge was too smooth, too precise. "Excitement doesn't concern me," he said flatly. "Consistency does. And this isn't consistent with anything." The third man arrived with the sound of boots crunching across shale. Commander Jonas Rourke carried his authority like the rifle strapped across his back, an ever-present weight, impossible to ignore. His broad shoulders filled the shade of the equipment canopy as he surveyed the pit. "How much longer before we wrap this up? The supply convoy won't wait forever, and I'd rather not leave my men exposed while you two polish rocks." Adrian smirked, never one to let Rourke's clipped tone unsettle him. "Not rocks, Commander. Fossils. Possibly a new genus if Marcus's brooding silence is any indication." Marcus ignored both of them. The brush uncovered a seam, then another, forming angles that shouldn't exist in natural anatomy. He switched to a finer tool, tracing the line with surgical care. The shape was undeniably organic, yet carried an unsettling symmetry. His breath slowed as recognition mingled with doubt. "Bones?" Rourke asked. Marcus finally looked up, eyes narrowing beneath the brim of his hat. "Not bones. Something older." He hesitated, almost reluctant to name it aloud. "And something impossible." Rourke exhaled sharply, the desert heat turning the sound into steam. "You'll forgive me if I don't share your sense of wonder. Impossible discoveries have a way of killing expeditions." Adrian climbed down into the pit beside Marcus, kneeling close. The revealed fragment resembled a rib, but the curvature was flawless, too precise, as if drawn by a draftsman rather than carved by evolution's haphazard hand. Beneath it, faint grooves traced patterns into the fossilized tissue, spirals that suggested function beyond survival. Adrian's grin faltered. "It's engineered." Marcus closed his eyes briefly. The word felt sacrilegious. Evolution was messy, brutal, beautiful in its imperfections. But this specimen radiated a different logic, one unmoored from time. They worked in silence until the desert bled into twilight, the pit expanding as layers peeled back. The structure revealed itself in fragments, an elongated chest cavity, a spine that branched instead of stacked, sockets too numerous for any known organism. The unease thickened. Rourke finally descended, his boots thudding against the planks. "Tell me why this matters. Convince me it's worth the risk of staying another day." His eyes flicked to the jagged horizon where shadows pooled. Bandits aren't the only predators that move when the light dies. Marcus steadied himself against the fossil. His voice dropped, heavy with conviction. "If my estimate is correct, this specimen predates the Cambrian explosion. Hundreds of millions of years before multicellular life should have existed in this region." "That's not possible," Adrian whispered. "Exactly," Marcus replied. Rourke's jaw tightened. "Then you're chasing a fairy tale. We've got schedules, obligations. You know what our sponsors will say if we return with nothing but outlandish claims. They'll say we've rewritten history," Marcus snapped, his composure cracking for the first time. "This creature has no place in the tree of life."
"None."
"Which means we're looking at evidence of something external." Adrian's pulse quickened. "You mean extraterrestrial?" His voice carried both fear and thrill. "I mean unnatural," Marcus corrected. The silence that followed was not empty but taut, like the stretched string of a bow. Even the wind seemed to hesitate before rushing over the pit again. They set up floodlights, the white beams cutting through the encroaching dark. The fossil glistened under their glare, crystalline veins shimmering within the stone. Adrian adjusted one of the lamps, only to freeze as the light struck a hollow chamber near the spine. For an instant, something beneath the fossilized layer seemed to pulse, faint, rhythmic, almost like the beat of a heart long denied breath. "Marcus," he said, voice trembling, "did you see that?" Marcus knelt close, holding the lamp steady. The chamber was still, inert, nothing more than fossilized stone. Yet his fingers brushed against warmth where there should have been none. He recoiled as though burned, then composed himself, hiding the tremor in his hand. Rourke's expression hardened. "This is where I draw the line. You want to study dead bones, fine. But if you're telling me that thing is alive—" "No," Marcus interrupted, though the word rang hollow. "Not alive. Not in any way we understand. But there's something preserved here, something that refuses to decay." Adrian leaned closer, fascination outweighing fear. Maybe cells. Maybe something dormant. If this organism resisted time itself, his voice trailed off, caught between reverence and dread. The desert night settled over them, stars scattering across the black canvas above. Their floodlights carved a fragile sanctuary against the darkness, but within the pit the fossil seemed to shimmer of its own accord. Adrian could not look away. Marcus closed the field log with deliberate calm, though his mind swirled. He had spent his life searching for answers buried in stone, fragments of truth hidden in strata and dust. But this discovery was not an answer. It was a question, one that threatened the very foundation of his faith in science. Rourke ascended from the pit, muttering about security protocols and contingency plans. Adrian lingered, tracing the impossible ridges with his eyes, committing every line to memory. The chamber pulsed again, just once, faint as a sigh, and he caught it alone. The rhythm crawled under his skin, a whisper of something vast and patient awakening beneath their feet. He swallowed hard, the grin gone, replaced by a gnawing certainty. This was no ordinary fossil. This was the beginning of something that should not exist. And it was waiting. "You said." The night stretched long, every gust of wind carrying a whisper of grit through the excavation camp. Adrian hunched over the field microscope, his face pale in the glow of the instrument's lamp. What lay on the slide was not inert dust, not the fractured residue of something that should have died before time knew its name. Under magnification, the fragment shimmered with a slow rhythm, cells flexing like muscles awakening from sleep. He blinked twice, rubbed his eyes, then looked again. The sample pulsed, dividing with a confidence that should have been impossible. Marcus stood behind him, his shadow looming like a sentry over Adrian's shoulder. His tone was calm, yet every syllable trembled with restrained awe. "You see it too?" Adrian nodded, swallowing hard. "They're alive. These cells have been entombed for, what, 500 million years? And they're alive." Commander Rourke entered without ceremony, the canvas flap of the lab tent snapping shut behind him. He carried the scent of sand and gun oil, the hard edge of a man who trusted nothing he could not destroy. "You two look like children staring at a fire. Explain before I pull the plug on this circus." Marcus gestured toward the scope. "Living tissue. In defiance of every law of biology we know." Rourke's lip curled. "You mean contamination? Some fool dragged modern bacteria into your precious rock." "Impossible," Marcus countered. His composure wavered for a fraction of a second, then returned, sharp as a blade. "The genetic architecture doesn't match anything on record. These cells don't belong to any known branch of life." Adrian added, his voice unsteady but fervent. "They don't even use the same base coding. It's like they were written in a different alphabet altogether." Rourke glared at the younger man, then at Marcus, as though measuring their sanity. "And you think this discovery is worth risking everyone here? What happens if that thing spreads?" Marcus's reply was ice. "What happens if we destroy the single most important discovery in human history?" The tension coiled tight, silence thick enough to smother the air. Adrian felt caught between them, drawn by Marcus's unshakable obsession and weighed down by Rourke's grim pragmatism. The microscope's light flickered, and when it steadied, the cells had shifted. Where once they pulsed independently, now they aligned, forming intricate lattices, spirals coiling inward with uncanny precision. Adrian's throat dried. "They're building something," he whispered. Hours bled away as they observed the impossible growth. Marcus recorded feverishly, sketching patterns, noting every fluctuation. Rourke stood apart, arms folded, a soldier staring at a battlefield he did not yet understand. By dawn, what had begun as a smear of tissue had swollen into a translucent mass, contained within the sterile glass of its dish. Veins of light coursed through it, threads that looked like nerves yet glowed as though carrying their own inner fire. Adrian leaned closer, his breath fogging the glass. The shape flexed, twitching against its confines. "It wants to live," Adrian said softly. Rourke's voice cut like a blade. "And I want it dead." He reached for the containment switch, prepared to flood the dish with sterilizing agents. Marcus caught his wrist, grip surprisingly strong. "You will not destroy it. Not while I draw breath." The two men locked eyes, the clash of conviction vibrating like steel against steel. Adrian shifted uncomfortably, his loyalties torn. He admired Marcus's pursuit of truth, yet Rourke's instincts screamed, with the same urgency clawing at his own gut. This thing was not natural. Before any decision could be made, the mass convulsed. Cracks spidered across the glass, sharp pops echoing like gunfire in the tent. Adrian staggered back, his chair toppling. The dish shattered, and the form spilled outward, not liquid, not solid, but something in between. It clung to the table like living mercury, rippling with intent. Rourke drew his pistol in one smooth motion. "I told you." Marcus raised a hand, desperate. "Wait. Look at it." The mass reconfigured itself, folding and unfolding until it began to take on shape. Limbs sprouted, elongating clumsily, bending at wrong angles before correcting. A torso heaved upward, ribbed and strange, then twisted as if reconsidering its own design. At last a head formed, faceless but with sockets gaping wide, too many and too few all at once. Adrian pressed himself against the tent wall, stomach churning. The figure shuddered, its body jerking in spasms of incompletion, then steadied. Slowly, its features began to settle, not human, but striving toward humanity. Its face, unfinished, was a blurred echo of Adrian's own. He gasped. "It's trying to copy me." The creature turned toward the sound, head cocked in uncanny mimicry. Its mouth split open, not to reveal teeth but to release a sound, Adrian's own voice, fractured, repeating his words back at him. "Copy me." The air thickened with dread. Rourke aimed, finger tightening on the trigger. Marcus stepped between, his voice fierce. "Don't. This is communication. This is intelligence." "It's mockery," Rourke growled. "And I don't tolerate enemies who mock me." The creature staggered forward, limbs stabilizing, its form refining with each motion. Its chest expanded as though breathing, though no lungs existed within. It reached a hand toward Adrian, fingers malformed yet unmistakably mimicking his. Adrian's body screamed to run, but curiosity rooted him. He whispered, "What are you?" The answer came in a chorus of stolen tones, his voice, Marcus's, even a ghost of Rourke's, tangled together in a grotesque harmony. "What are you?" The floodlight flickered again. The creature's skin shimmered with every flash, reshaping, learning. It was evolution stripped of patience, adaptation compressed into moments. Marcus's eyes blazed with awe. It doesn't evolve, it rewrites itself instantly. It's adaptation made flesh. Rourke barked. "It's a weapon." The creature lurched closer, its gaze never leaving Adrian, as though he were the mirror it needed. He backed away until his shoulders pressed into canvas, heart hammering against his ribs. Marcus extended a trembling hand, his voice reverent. "We are standing before something that predates life itself. The first question, The original design. Rourke kept his pistol steady, his knuckles white. One more step, and it's done. The creature stopped, motionless, then opened its mouth wider. The voices inside it stuttered, collapsed into silence. For a breathless instant, the tent was still. Then, without warning, the mimic's body jerked, splitting into jagged ridges of bone and sinew. Its eyes, too many, too human, snapped open, locking on Adrian with a hunger that was not curiosity but need. The lantern shattered, plunging the tent into darkness broken only by the creature's faint inner glow. Adrian whispered the truth. None of them wished to speak. It isn't alive the way we are. And in the suffocating dark, the thing took another step. You said. The glow from the creature's body painted the tent in ghostly hues, each flicker casting elongated shadows that twisted like specters. Adrian pressed himself against a canvas wall, breath shallow, every instinct begging him to flee. Yet his eyes clung to the impossible thing standing before them, as if knowledge itself had anchored him to the spot. Marcus moved closer, a man hypnotized, his face illuminated by the creature's shifting contours. The awe in his expression bordered on worship. Do you see? It's stabilizing. Every second it learns more about us. Rourke's gun never wavered. His tone was stone cold, each word deliberate. All I see is a threat. You're blind, Marcus. This isn't a discovery, it's an invasion. The creature's head tilted in a grotesque mimic of curiosity, its faceless countenance slowly folding, reshaping until the faint suggestion of Adrian's features emerged again. But the imitation was broken, eyes set slightly too wide, jaw crooked as though copied from memory rather than observation. Its hand extended toward him once more, trembling with uncanny intent. Adrian's chest tightened. He forced words through his dry throat. Why me? The answer came, not in language, but in a chorus of stolen voices, his own, Marcus's, Rourke's, woven into one. Why me? The sound rattled through the tent, echoing with a distorted cadence that made Adrian's skin crawl. He wanted to recoil, but Marcus stepped forward instead, his voice rising with urgency. It is reflecting us, communicating in the only way it knows. Don't you understand? We're teaching it to be alive. Alive. Rourke barked. His eyes never left the shifting figure. That thing isn't alive. It's a parasite wearing your face. The creature twitched at the harsh tone, its body jerking in sudden spasms, as if Rourke's hostility had disrupted its fragile equilibrium. It stumbled, then corrected itself, bones and sinew snapping into new alignments that sounded far too much like breaking glass. When it rose again, its shape had changed. The eyes gleamed with Rourke's pale green irises, the jawline broader, its stature more imposing. Adrian's stomach dropped. It's not just copying me, it's copying all of us. Marcus whispered, as if the words were holy scripture. A perfect adaptive engine, evolution without time. The creature opened its mouth and released another sound. This time, the voice was clearer, less fragmented, a low rumble that carried the cadence of Rourke's command bark. Threat, destroy. Rourke stiffened, jaw clenching, though his fingers stayed tight on the trigger. It learns aggression as easily as curiosity. Do you still think it's a miracle, Marcus? But Marcus wasn't listening. He scribbled furiously into his notebook, eyes gleaming with manic hunger. If it can mirror us, then it can be taught. We could guide its form, shape its purpose. This could be humanity's greatest ally. The mimic took another step, closer this time, its mismatched features resolving with uncanny speed. Its skin rippled as though struggling to decide whose likeness to hold. Adrian saw his own eyes on Rourke's frame, Marcus's gaunt cheeks stretched over his own jaw. The amalgam was nauseating, a broken reflection of them all. Adrian's heart pounded. Marcus, it isn't choosing. It's consuming us. The words silenced the tent. Even Marcus's pen halted mid-stroke. The creature froze, then suddenly lunged. Not with violence, but with desperate speed, pressing its warped hand against Adrian's chest. The touch seared cold, a violation that sank deeper than flesh. Images detonated in Adrian's mind. Oceans boiling, forests withering, skies torn open by light not of Earth. He staggered, choking on the flood of alien memories that weren't his. He tore free, stumbling to the floor, clutching at his heart as if to tear the intrusion out. Rourke's gun roared, the muzzle flash searing the dark. A bullet tore through the creature's shoulder, sending fragments of its body spraying like molten glass. But the wound sealed almost instantly, flesh rewriting itself faster than the eye could follow. The mimic turned toward Rourke now, its posture shifting, becoming broader, stronger, as if the gunshot had taught it how to resist. Marcus shouted, voice hoarse with fury.
No.
You'll ruin everything. But Rourke didn't hesitate. He fired again and again, each round ripping through the body only for it to reform in grotesque new arrangements. The tent filled with the stench of ozone and bloodless decay. The creature retaliated, not with weapons, but with imitation. Its arms split into jagged ridges, hardening into a crude barrel that mimicked Rourke's pistol. The sound that followed was not a bullet, but a blast of compressed air so forceful it hurled Rourke across the tent, slamming him against the steel support beam. He collapsed, coughing but alive. Adrian scrambled to his feet, pulling Marcus back from the spreading glow of the creature. His mentor resisted, eyes wild, still clinging to the hope that knowledge outweighed survival. Adrian, don't you see? This is the truth before life itself. It's not our enemy. It's our origin. Adrian shook him, voice cracking. Origins don't devour their children. The mimic's gaze swept over them, its features settling once more, this time into the face of neither Marcus nor Rourke nor Adrian alone, but a seamless fusion of all three. It smiled, thin and wrong, and when it spoke, the voices no longer fractured. They harmonized, clear, dreadful, familiar. We are you. Adrian's stomach turned as the words echoed inside his mind, echoing with a conviction he could not dismiss. The thing wasn't claiming kinship, it was claiming ownership. Rourke staggered upright, blood streaking his temple, fury burning in his eyes. He pulled a combat knife from his belt, holding it low and ready. Then it's war. The mimic moved, too fast for its size, surging toward them with limbs elongating in grotesque arcs. Adrian yanked Marcus behind him, heart hammering. Rourke intercepted, slashing with brutal precision, each strike meant to kill. The blade tore through the shifting flesh, spraying shards that dissolved into vapor. The creature recoiled, not in pain but in calculation, adjusting again, bones sprouting along its arms like shields. Marcus shouted over the chaos, his voice breaking. Don't kill it. We need to understand. But Rourke's response was a guttural roar as he drove the knife deep into its chest. The mimic convulsed, its body rippling outward in a violent wave. Canvas ripped, equipment toppled, and light flooded in as the tent tore open. Adrian shielded his eyes against the sudden glare. When his vision cleared, he saw the mimic rising once more, the knife still buried in its chest, glowing as though it had been absorbed rather than resisted. And then, in a voice steady and cold, it spoke with Rourke's exact tone. Understand this. It lunged, and the camp exploded into chaos. You said. The desert night was ablaze with violence. Floodlights toppled, sparking against torn canvas as the mimic hurled itself through the wreckage of the camp. Sand churned under the weight of its shifting limbs, each step rewriting its body into something stronger, sharper, more human. The knife still jutted from its chest, glowing like a stolen heart, absorbed into flesh that defied the rules of survival. Adrian dragged Marcus behind an overturned supply crate, his own lungs burning as fear warred with disbelief. Marcus fought him, fists weakly striking his shoulder, voice hoarse with desperation. Don't you understand? Every second we fight it, it learns more. If we kill it now, we'll never know what it means, what it is. Adrian's grip tightened, teeth clenched. It's not knowledge, Marcus, it's invasion. You saw what it did to me, what it showed me. That thing doesn't belong anywhere in life's story. It's rewriting the story entirely. A crash split the air as Rourke's rifle barked from the ridge above the excavation pit. His silhouette cut against the chaos, a soldier rooted in fury, firing controlled bursts. Bullets hammered into the mimic, tearing chunks from its form, only for the wounds to close with grotesque efficiency. The creature didn't falter. It advanced, mimicking his posture, its own arm reshaping into a grotesque barrel. When it fired, compressed air boomed like thunder, blasting stone into shards where Rourke had stood seconds before. He rolled behind a generator, teeth gritted, shouting down into the pit. "Locke, get him out of here. I'll finish this." Marcus struggled harder at that, eyes wild.
No.
"He'll destroy it. Don't you see? This is the key to everything humanity has searched for. A life beyond life." Adrian snapped, his voice breaking. "It isn't life. It's intrusion. It doesn't evolve. It doesn't belong. It adapts because it has no place in our world." The mimic roared then, a sound not born of lungs but of countless stolen voices braided into one. Adrian's blood chilled as he recognized his own tone woven into the cry, laced with Marcus's and Rourke's in grotesque harmony. The creature was not only learning, it was becoming. It leapt at Rourke, a blur of motion, and the two collided in a storm of fists, blades, and bone. Adrian hauled Marcus toward the pit's edge, his mind racing. If the creature had no place in evolution, then perhaps destruction lay not in killing it, but in denying it the ground it needed to grow. The pit yawned wide, explosives still wired along its edge from earlier digs. Rourke grappled with the mimic, driving his knife into its neck, snarling through blood and dust. "Get clear, Locke. Bring the charges down." Adrian's throat closed. "That'll bury you too. Do it," Rourke roared, shoving the creature back with brute force. Better one-manned than the whole damn world. The mimic surged, tendrils lashing around Rourke's limbs, pulling him close. Its stolen face bent inches from his, speaking in his own voice, perfectly replicated. "We are the same." Rourke spat blood into its eyes. "Not a chance." Adrian fumbled for the detonator, Marcus clawing at his arm, screaming incoherent protests. "You fool. You're killing the truth. Humanity needs this." Adrian's eyes burned, torn between mentor and comrade, knowledge and survival. He thought of the visions, the oceans boiling, the skies split open. He thought of Marcus's obsession, of Rourke's grim certainty. He thought of his own reflection, stolen by a thing that had no right to it. He pressed the trigger. The world convulsed. The charges ignited, thunder rolling beneath the earth as the pit collapsed inward. The mimic shrieked, 1,000 voices shredding the night as stones swallowed its body. Rourke vanished in the blast, a silhouette erased by dust and fire. Adrian clutched Marcus to the ground, the roar of destruction tearing through his bones. When the dust settled, silence returned. The floodlights were gone, the camp shattered, the pit nothing more than a smoking wound in the desert. Adrian staggered to his feet, pulling Marcus up beside him. His mentor's face was ashen, eyes hollow. "You killed it," Marcus whispered, voice broken. "You killed the greatest revelation of our age." Adrian stared into the smoldering crater, his chest heaving, guilt and relief tangled like barbed wire. "No, Marcus. I killed the question that was never meant to be asked." They limped from the ruin, dawn bleeding across the horizon. Marcus muttered to himself, a broken man clutching the fragments of a dream. Adrian said nothing. He had no comfort left to give. Days later, in the sterile calm of a medical tent far from the desert, Adrian wrote his report. The anomaly destroyed. The site collapsed. Commander Jonas Rourke, killed in action. He kept the language clinical, detached, burying the chaos beneath words that made it sound like a routine failure. Sponsors would close the file, governments would forget, history would move on. But when the lantern dimmed and the tent fell silent, Adrian found himself staring at his own hand. A shallow cut he had earned in the collapse had healed without scar, the skin knitting in moments when it should have taken days. He touched the mark, heart tightening. In the mirror across the room, his reflection blinked a heartbeat too late. And in the stillness, He heard his own voice whisper back at him. We are the same.
You said.